Today's top stories at NBR: simplicity directed to remove misleading advertising, a policy of insolvent trading ultimately caused huge losses to Mainzeal creditors, a court hears, Russia's sovereign debt downgraded to C, and there's more coming right up. Kia ora and welcome to NBR Today, 100% subscriber funded and proudly brought to you by you, as is every story at nbr.co.nz. It's Wednesday, March 9th. I'm Paul Brennan. Thanks again for joining us. The Three Waters Working Group on Representation, Governance and Accountability has reported back to Local Government Minister Nanaia Mahuta after being set up late last year in response to widespread concerns the government's proposal would undermine local democracy and dilute the ownership rights of local authorities. The working group report supports the consolidation of existing water assets held by the country's local authorities into the 4 WSEs. A key recommendation was to set up a public shareholding model which clarified the ownership of the water service entities, with councils owning all shares in them on behalf of their communities. The Financial Markets Authority has directed Sam Stubbs' high-profile KiwiSaver provider Simplicity to remove misleading advertising and improve its compliance processes. The market regulator said today, Wednesday, that Simplicity's All Greys advertising campaign, which included the statement, "Get out of the game when you want to, retire with up to 20% more than the average KiwiSaver plan," was unsubstantiated and likely to mislead or deceive under the Financial Markets Conduct Act. The advertising, which encouraged people to switch their KiwiSaver to Simplicity, appeared on TV channels, Facebook, YouTube, billboards, internet display banners, and Simplicity's website between August and October 2021. FMA Director of Investment Management Paul Gregory said Simplicity had withdrawn the campaign promptly, accepted responsibility, and engaged with the FMA constructively. The directors of failed construction company Mainzeal had a policy of insolvent trading, which ultimately caused huge losses of more than $100 million to creditors, the Supreme Court has heard. And in doing so, they ensured existing creditors were paid, but simultaneously put new creditors and the company itself at great risk. The case for Mainzeal liquidators BDO, in a long-awaited week-long Supreme Court hearing, described as the directors' duties case of a generation, began before Chief Justice Helen Winkleman and Justices William Young, Susan Glazebrook, Mark O'Regan and Ellen France today, Wednesday. The Supreme Court hearing follows the Court of Appeal last March. New Zealand-born, Illinois-based synthetic biology company LanzaTech NZ is destined for a NASDAQ listing after merging with a US company in a deal valuing the company at US $1.8 billion, announced this morning, Wednesday morning. LanzaTech Global Inc., as it will be known, is expected to be the first carbon capture and transformation company ever to access public capital markets. The company, which owns a microbe that metabolizes carbon waste to produce useful chemicals used in common materials and in fuels, was co-founded by New Zealand scientist Dr. Sean Simpson in 2005. It will be combined with publicly traded special purpose acquisition company AMCI, although remain at its headquarters in Chicago. The transaction is expected to raise approximately US $275 million. Ratings agency Fitch has downgraded Russia's sovereign debt to C, saying the country is in imminent risk of default. In a ratings action issued overnight, Fitch said developments since its last downgrade on March 2nd had further undermined Russia's willingness to service government debt. While sovereign rating actions were required to follow a published schedule, Fitch said the material change in Russia's circumstances meant it was not appropriate to wait until the next scheduled rating review on May 27th. The developments included a Russian presidential decree on March 5th, which could potentially force a redenomination of foreign currency sovereign debt payments into local currency for creditors in specified countries, it said. Potential grocery market challenger Northelia's frontman Tex Edwards is stunned at the apparent turnaround from an encouraging direction of the Commerce Commission's draft grocery market study report to the recommendation of the final report released yesterday, Tuesday. Edwards is still digesting the report, but asked by the NBR whether it meant the end of Northelia's vision of creating a grocery player to rival existing major chains owned by Woolworths New Zealand and Foodstuffs, he said the business case he envisaged had largely disappeared. All they're doing is fringe stuff, I can't believe it, Edwards told NBR, referring to the Comcom's final report. The full details of those stories and more are at nbr.co.nz right now. Tomorrow at NBR, in his politics column, our political editor Brent Edwards looks at Christopher Luxon's State of the Nation address. I'm Paul Brennan. Join me again from around lunchtime tomorrow for the morning's NBR trending stories. Then again from 5:30 right here for another NBR Today.